Willie Gault and Larry Seivers are on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. Now, for one, the Hall of Fame in college is way, way, way behind. Willie Gault played in the 80s for Tennessee. Seivers was in the late 70s, early 80s. Correct me if I'm wrong, Caleb. I don't know why the College Football Hall of Fame isn't more reactive in some of its players making the Hall of Fame. And then Josh Heupel getting consideration, as we went over in our 3:30 a.m. production meeting. What do you make of those three? How do they immediately strike you?
Well, Willie Gault and Larry Seivers, I have actually, the reason they're still on is they've been on the ballot quite a few times before, and they just can't get in, it seems like.
Right.
I got a lot. Between the two, I say this. Larry Seivers has a case. He was a two-time All-American. I think anytime you're a multi-time All-American, you have a case to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. That's almost like, you get that, that's a standard. Willie Gault, I know was an All-American in 1982, but I have to be honest. I think Willie Gault is more famous as an overall elite athlete, not necessarily what he did specifically within the confines of the college football field. And so I'm not so sure the case for him is as strong to be in the College Football Hall of Fame, even though he was an incredible athlete. If you want to put him in some college athletics Hall of Fame, just like best athletes ever to play college, Willie Gault, I mean, you could put him in there with Deion Sanders and have them be next to each other. But in terms of specifically a college football player, he had 1 year, which was his senior year, in which he was All-American level with his production. And it wasn't like that 1 year was a record-breaking year like what Reggie White had in 1983. And so of the two, I think I understand Larry Seivers. Josh Heupel is obviously his playing days at Oklahoma. Many people felt he should have won the Heisman in 2000. But, you know, if you look at Josh Heupel's stats, they weren't that good that year he won the national title at Oklahoma.
Yeah, but I also have to take that into the context of the times. So if his stats were good enough to make be a Heisman Trophy runner-up, then they were pretty good, right? So I don't hold stats against them, just like I wouldn't hold stats of a 1960s quarterback throwing the ball around. Apparently, whatever he was doing at the time works. I don't have a problem with Josh Heupel being on the Hall of Fame ballot. I wouldn't have a problem with him getting in. I look at Seivers and Harper, and I don't want this to sound wrong because you can let a bunch of people in, okay? That's all well and good. And I've thought before maybe you should have different levels. But to put those names next to the guys that have got in recently, Al Wilson, a 2021 inductee, Eric Berry, an upcoming inductee, that to me, or Eric is it, and he went in last year, excuse me. Those to me are two different levels of players. No offense against Seivers and Harper, and maybe it's because I covered a couple.
Seivers and Gault, you mean? You mean Seivers and Gault?
Oh yes, what did I say? Sorry. Oh,
you
Harper.
said Seivers and Harper.
Gault. And I just to me, those are two different levels of athletes. I mean, Al Wilson, if he plays quarterback, wins a Heisman Trophy. There's no question. Eric Berry, if he wins a Heisman, if he plays quarterback instead of defensive back, he wins a Heisman Trophy. Those were ultra elite players, is the point I'm trying to make. Where I think Gault and Seivers were very, very good, and Heupel was very, very good. I just don't see them being of the same ilk. I'll throw in another name. I don't know how in the world we're not having a discussion of Deion Grant being in the College Football Hall of Fame. I would take them over every name I just mentioned, including Eric Berry. And you know how high I am on Eric Berry, okay? But I would even take Deion Grant over every single name we have mentioned other than Al Wilson on that group. I don't think Tennessee wins a national championship in 1998 without a Deion Grant that was able to be that safety net. I want to hear more from the message board as far as players you think should definitely be in. But to me, Deion Grant, as far as a college football player, now that's the parameters, right? We're not talking about the Basketball Hall of Fame that is all levels. To me, as far as a college football player, Deion Grant is right up there with changing the course of college football, just like Peyton Manning did. And Peyton Manning changed it because he went to Tennessee, and that led to great success at Tennessee because of the repercussions you had from what he was able to do. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you that if Deion Grant doesn't come to Tennessee and perhaps goes to Florida, as had been discussed based off a recent conversation I had with Deion, or stays in Georgia, that's changing what happened in the late 90s and perhaps beyond of SEC football. That's changing the course of what happened. I'm sure Peyton Manning would have done the same thing, but and Deion Grant, Cozy Coleman, and Jamal Lewis coming from Georgia to Tennessee, it changed the course of SEC football. There's no question.
Dave, I'm going to say I think you're a victim of being so close to the program that you're relying a lot more on eye test, which I understand.
And recency bias too, which is very fair. I didn't see, and I'm glad you went there because I didn't see Larry Seivers play firsthand.
Right. So I get what your point is with eye test, but okay, when you talk about like with the Hall of Fame, I don't think it goes with eye test. It goes with accomplishments to a certain degree. And okay, yes, Deion Grant did have 9 interceptions in a year. I think Chris White had 9 interceptions in 1985 too. I don't think anybody thinks Chris White should be in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
And I think it's so Peyton Manning's in because Peyton Manning's in because of his 1997 season, where he shattered offensive records and shattered every SEC offensive record at the time known to man. And that's what put him in the College Football Hall of Fame. Al Wilson's in the College Football Hall of Fame because of his leadership, not necessarily his stats, as the leader of that 98 Tennessee team that won a national title.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to take accomplishments relative to the time. Larry Seivers, now keep in mind, for those who don't know, in the late 1970s or mid 1970s, Tennessee was running the veer, meaning they weren't really throwing it all that much down the field. And Larry Seivers in 1975 had 840 receiving yards, and then in 1976 had 737. That's unheard of for 1974 and 1975.
The Crossville Comet, I'm with you. I'm not knocking him. I think he deserves to be in too. Okay, I'm not saying an either or thing. Okay, I don't know why you just don't relax the standards a little bit, because the Gaults of the world deserve to be in. The Seivers deserve to be in. I don't know why they're not in already. And if they were in 5 to 10 years after they played, then you would be able to celebrate them with people that remembered them. A lot of our audience right now doesn't remember who Larry Seivers is. If I hadn't spent 25 years in this business, I might not either, because he's a little bit older than me. So bring them in. This is not, if you go to the if you go to the Basketball Hall of Fame, it is a huge, huge building that if they bring in a bunch more guys, they're going to have to build a wing. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's packed tight. But with the College Football Hall of Fame, goodness gracious, I mean, where is it even located? They just put up a bust. It's no big deal. They've got like 15,000 people in it. Just put more dudes in it. But what you're saying statistically is absolutely right. If you want to go Gault, if you want to go Larry Seivers, but changing the course of football in the SEC, that's what Deion Grant, Jamal Lewis, and Cozy Coleman did. We'd be talking about Georgia having another title, or maybe Florida, instead of Tennessee having a national title.
Yeah, but I would argue Larry Seivers and Willie Gault changed the course in the SEC, particularly Willie Gault. But wide receiver U started with Larry Seivers in 75 and 76. And then majors came in, and the changing game for wide receiver U was actually, a lot of people don't know this, but Tennessee's 1982 upset of Alabama, where I believe it was Walt Harris was the offensive coordinator. Was that his name at the time? He and Majors,
Harris, yep.
They had sat down and realized that they were the ones to realize Alabama can't cover 3 receivers all game. So they went vertical in 1982, and no one saw that coming. And that's really what set it. That was with Willie Gault, and that set in motion Tennessee being wide receiver U. That also set in motion a school like Florida being willing to hire back Steve Spurrier in 1990. Because honestly, if it wasn't for Tennessee doing wide receiver U, the concept of a fun and gun would never have happened in the 90s, which totally changed the SEC in the future. But Tennessee started that under Majors, spreading the field.
All right, on the message board, who would you have in the College Football Hall of Fame, who would you have in immediately? And obviously, Heupel, Gault, and Seivers are up there, but I'm going to go ahead and throw in Deion Grant. I don't think Tennessee wins a championship. I think if obviously Al Wilson is the most important factor on that team, I think he is a strong second tier type of player. I'll go ahead and put Fred White in there, but definitely Deion Grant. Other players from that team, it was such a team effort that I don't know that you have other players from that team. Maybe T. Martin, but we'll go ahead and check and see if they're already in the College Football Hall of Fame if you want to give us your thoughts. So the question I'll ask of you, Caleb, would you put Seivers, Gault, or Deion Grant? You've got only one vote. It's the Caleb Calhoun vote. Vote for Jamal Lewis. We'll get to that. It's the Caleb Calhoun vote. It's the Calhoun caveat is what it is. He gets to pick one guy a year that goes in amongst the group I give him. So we'll ask Caleb that. Brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. He'll save you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. AndyMasonRealEstate.com, over 40 years of experience in his office. AndyMasonRealEstate.com is phenomenal. Travis says, Gault, if you only get one vote between, now I'm including the 4 too. So I'm including Heupel, I'm including Gault, Seivers, and Deion Grant. And somebody says that Caleb will pick Butch Jones. He's not going to pick Butch Jones.
I'll pick Derek Dooley, guys, obviously.
Yes, he loves him some Dooley. Go to AndyMasonRealEstate.com. So who are you picking among the group that we have?
I think it's actually pretty easy for me. I have a rule. If you're a 2-time All-American, you're automatically in. Larry Seivers is a 2-time All-American. If you do that, being an All-American 1 year, a lot of people can do. He did it twice. He's in. And by the way, there are people that.
What was Deion Grant? Was he was a one-time All-American?
Just one time, 99.
Okay, yeah. Who had the bigger impact on Tennessee's football program, Larry Seivers or Deion Grant?
Okay, if you speak just from the vacuum of Tennessee football,
on
the field, probably Deion Grant. I mean, the dude had. I mean, again, he's the reason Tennessee wins a national title. Larry Seivers was through a really bad period of Tennessee football history in the 70s. But I mean, that's like saying, okay, T. Martin had a bigger impact on Tennessee, I would say, than Casey Clausen. But I think we both agree Casey was probably a better quarterback.
Wow, that's a different conversation for another day, because I think they let Casey do everything once he was healthy. I don't think they let T. Martin do half of what he was capable of.
All right, crazier comparison. See, the whole doing, having a bigger impact. We both agree that Heath Shuler had a bigger long-term impact on Tennessee than Peyton Manning. But Peyton Manning was better. And he belongs in the Hall of Fame over Heath Shuler, if you have to pick between the two.
Hey now.
Can't argue with that. All right, today's tough question.
A couple others,
sorry.
Yeah. There's a few others who belong in the Hall of Fame, and it's ridiculous that these people aren't. I just wanted to name them real quick, but John Henderson should be in the College Football Hall of Fame. Outland Trophy winner, 2-time All-American. That should be an automatic Hall of Fame.
Completely stupid that he's not.
Yes.
Completely stupid.
Jackie Walker should be in the Hall of Fame. 2-time All-American, the first black captain in the SEC in 1972 or 73. He belongs. Maybe it was 71. And finally, my last clear-cut one, Dale Carter. Insane that Dale Carter's not in the Hall of Fame. Played 2 years of Division I football and was an All-American both years.
I'm with you. I mean, I've got I don't understand why there's not more dudes in there. How many? Can you run this search for me real quick? Can you search how many players/coaches are in the College Football Hall of Fame, and how many players/coaches are on the NFL or in the NFL Hall of Fame?
So it's about 1,100 for college football.
Okay. And what's the NFL?
And there are, looking at now, about 360 in the NFL.
Okay. So they've been playing organized college football with 4 times the teams for about twice the amount of time.
Yes, for almost 160 years. Organized college football.
There should be 2,500 or 3,000 in the College Football Hall of Fame. Should there not?
There should. Organized college football started the same year the first professional baseball team played, the Cincinnati Red Stockings in 1869, I believe. Organized college football is as old as as old as professional baseball in this country. And yeah,
it's a celebration, and they basically got a broom closet, so they put another bust in it. It's not like they go to all the rigmarole that the Basketball Hall of Fame goes to, or even the NFL.